Hey everyone, you know me, always up for digging into some really cool stuff, and today is no different. We're going to take a deep dive into AI voices and how they're making podcasting way more inclusive, especially for folks who, face communication challenges.
It's super exciting, and yeah, I can't wait to really explore this whole thing with you.
Same here. We've got this blog post. It's called Debunking the Myth. Only non-vocal individuals should use AI voices, and honestly, the title alone just makes you think.
Oh yeah, it really challenges like what people normally think, and that's where things get really interesting.
For sure. So should we just jump right in?
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So, right off the bat, the blog post is careful to say non-vocal, not non-verbal. Is there a big difference there?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
So nonverbal can sometimes like imply someone can't communicate at all, which isn't true for tons of people.
Yeah.
But nonvocal is more specific, It means having trouble actually speaking the words, but they might communicate in other ways, like writing or sign language.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about understanding all the different ways people communicate. So, all right, let's just get right to it. This whole idea that only non-vocal people should use AI voices. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's kind of like saying, like, only professional photographers should use cameras. It's just not true. And it ignores all the creative things you can do with AI. Anyone can use it, no matter how well they can speak.
I love that. It really makes you think about how the blog post talks about making things more inclusive. It's not just non-vocal people, it's anyone who has trouble communicating, right?
Exactly. And, there are a lot more people out there than you might think who find it hard to podcast, even if they can technically speak.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The blog post mentions a few things like dysnomia, apraxia, and dysarthria, which I have to admit I'm not totally clear on. Can you maybe break those down a little bit, what they are and how they make it hard to communicate?
Okay, so let's say someone with dysnomia is trying to record a podcast. They have all these great ideas, but they just can't find the right words. Like when you have a word on the tip of your tongue, but it never comes out. Ugh, so frustrating.
Oh, yeah, totally. I can see how that would be so hard. What about apraxia?
So with apraxia, it's more about the physical part of talking. They know what they want to say, but the signals from their brain, like, don't get to their mouth muscles in the right way. So even easy words can sound jumbled or weird.
Oh, wow. So it's like their brain and mouth aren't talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And then dysarthria. That's it.
So dysarthria is, it's like weakness or when the muscles you use to talk don't work together well. This can make their speech sound slurred or unclear, and that makes it hard for people to understand.
Gotcha. So we're talking about a whole bunch of different challenges, not just like you can speak or you can't.
Right, it's definitely more complex than that. And that's where AI voices can really help. They can, like, bridge that gap and let people express themselves clearly no matter what challenges they're facing.
It's so cool. It sounds like it could be a total game changer for people. Now, the blog post also mentioned situational and selective mutism. Where do those fit in?
Those are more about anxiety or certain situations making it hard to talk. Like, you're fine talking to friends, but then, totally freeze up in a meeting. That's kind of like situational mutism.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really frustrating, especially if you have something important to say. And then selective mutism, is that similar?
Kind of, but it's usually about not being able to talk to certain people
Hmm.
or in specific places, usually because of social anxiety.
So it's not that they physically can't speak, it's more of a mental block.
Exactly.
Wow, this is really interesting. So, it seems like AI voices could help way more people than I originally thought.
Totally. It's all about making podcasting more inclusive and welcoming for everyone.
Okay, so it's clear that AI voices aren't just for people who can't speak. They can help anyone facing these communication challenges. But I'm wondering, how do they actually work? Can they really sound like a real person, with emotion and everything?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And the technology has come so far. We'll get into how it works in a bit. But first, I actually want to tell you about this podcaster I know who completely changed their experience using AI voices.
Ooh, a real life example. I'm all ears.
So this podcaster, they've always loved history, and they really wanted to share that passion, but they had really bad social anxiety. Recording with their own voice was just impossible. They had so many amazing stories, but they just felt stuck.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that feeling of having something to say but not being able to say it. So what happened?
Well, they found out about AI voice technology and decided to just give it a shot. And they were blown away by how real and expressive the voices were. For the first time, they felt comfortable enough to start recording.
That's amazing. It's like they finally found a way to unlock their voice, to share what they loved.
Exactly. And this is just one example of how AI voices are helping people connect with their audience in a real and meaningful way. But before we get too deep into that, let's take a step back and look at the tech side of things.
Okay, yeah, I'm ready to geek out a little. How do these AI voices actually work? Is it like magic, or is there some serious science happening behind the scenes?
It's definitely not magic, but it is pretty incredible. So basically, these voices are made using really complex algorithms that analyze tons and tons of speech data.
So they're like learning from real human voices.
Exactly. They learn how people talk, the rhythm, the emotion, all of it. It's like teaching a computer to speak by letting it listen to thousands of conversations.
Wow, so it's not just about copying sounds, it's about capturing like the whole essence of human communication.
Yeah, that's it. And the technology is getting better all the time, more sophisticated and realistic.
That's so cool. But I'm curious, some people worry about AI voices sounding, robotic or fake. Have you encountered that?
Yeah, of course. And
Yeah.
those worries make sense, especially with the older versions of the tech. But the newer AI voices are so lifelike. They can do subtle emotions, pauses, even laughter. Honestly, it can be really hard to tell them apart from real human voices.
Wow, seriously. So we're talking about AI voices that could even fool someone who really knows what they're listening for.
Yeah, in some cases, definitely. But it's important to remember that AI voices are still a tool, right? How well they work depends on how they're used. Just like any other creative tool, in the right hands, they can create something really beautiful and moving.
That makes sense. It's all about finding the right voice, the right tone, and the right way to get your message across, just like with any other kind of communication.
You got it. And that brings up something important, the ethics of using AI voices. While the technology has so much potential, we need to be careful, use it responsibly.
That's a great point. I was just going to ask about the ethical stuff. What are some of the key things that, like, podcasters and listeners should be thinking about?
I think the most important thing is being transparent. If you're using an AI voice, be upfront about it. Let your listeners know why you're using it and what they can expect.
So it's all about honesty and respecting your audience.
Exactly. You want to build trust with your listeners, and transparency is a big part of that.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there other ethical things we should be considering?
Well, we also need to think about how AI voices could be misused. They could be used to make deepfakes or spread false information, and that could have serious consequences.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a little scary. So how do we prevent that from happening?
Education and awareness are key. The more people understand how AI voices work, the better they'll be able to spot when they're being misused.
So we need to be informed and think critically about the information we come across, just like with any other kind of media.
Absolutely. It's also important to talk openly about the ethical side of AI and come up with guidelines for using it responsibly.
I totally agree. It's all about finding that balance between the amazing things AI can do and being aware of the potential risks.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing conversation that will keep evolving as the technology gets even more advanced.
Okay, cool. So we've covered how AI voices work, the different communication challenges they can help with, and why it's important to use them ethically. But now I'm thinking about the practical side of things. Let's say someone listening is totally inspired and wants to try using an AI voice for their own podcast. Where do they even start?
That's a great question. The good news is there are so many resources and tools out there to help people get started. Choosing the right software, learning some basic audio editing, it's getting easier all the time to make high-quality podcasts using AI voices.
That's awesome. So what would you say are the must-have tools or resources for someone who's just starting out and wants to explore AI voices?
There are a bunch of really great AI voice platforms out there, and each one has its own, strengths and features. Some popular ones list a few popular AI voice platforms, but it's definitely worth trying a few out and seeing which one fits you best, your needs and your budget.
So it's like trying on different shoes until you find the perfect pair.
Exactly. You want a platform that feels good to use, easy to understand, and has the features you need to make your podcasting dreams a reality.
I love that. Okay, so once you've picked your platform, what are some key things to keep in mind when using AI voices for podcasting?
Just like with any kind of audio production, having clear audio and a good script is super important. You want to make sure your AI voice is easy to understand and your script flows naturally.
So it's not just about picking a cool voice and hitting record, it's about creating a well-structured and engaging podcast episode.
Right. The AI voice is just one part of it, a really important part, but there's more to it than that.
That makes sense. Are there any other tips or tricks you'd suggest for making the most of AI voices in podcasting?
One thing that people sometimes forget is pacing and intonation. Even with a really realistic AI voice, it's easy to sound monotone.
Oh, yeah, I can see how that would happen. It's like reading a script versus having a real conversation.
Exactly. So pay attention to how people naturally talk, add pauses for emphasis, and change your tone a bit to keep things interesting.
That's a great tip. It's all about adding that human touch, even when you're using an AI voice. Speaking of which, how can podcasters make sure their content still feels personal and authentic, even when they're using an AI voice?
That's a fantastic question. Because in the end, podcasting is about connecting with your audience on a human level, whether you're using your own voice or an AI voice.
You're right. It's about sharing your unique perspective, your passions, what you care about.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to let your personality shine through in your podcast, even if you're using an AI voice. Share your own stories, give your opinions, and let your listeners get to know the real you.
That's such good advice. It's like remembering that the voice is just a way to deliver your message. The real magic comes from the content, the stories you tell, and the connections you build with your listeners.
You nailed it. That's what makes podcasting so powerful, no matter what voice you use. It's about sharing your voice with the world however you can and finding the people who connect with what you have to say.
I love that. So, for anyone listening who might be on the fence about using AI voices for their podcast, what would you say to encourage them to go for it?
I'd say don't let fear or self-doubt stop you. AI voices can be an incredible way to express yourself and feel empowered. If you have a story, a passion, or something you want to share with the world, don't let anything hold you back. Find your voice and share it.
That's so inspiring. It reminds me that podcasting is for everyone, and AI voices are opening up all these amazing new possibilities for people who maybe felt left out before.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning. As AI technology keeps getting better, I'm so excited to see how it will continue to transform podcasting and give even more people a chance to be heard.
Me too. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive, but I still have so many questions. Like, what about the future of podcasting with AI voices? What are some of the things we can expect to see down the road?
Oh, that's a great question. We're just getting started, really. Imagine podcasts that are personalized for each listener, interactive podcasts where you can talk to the AI voice, or even podcasts in multiple languages at the same time.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. It sounds like the future of podcasting is going to be even more incredible and engaging.
For sure. And who knows what other crazy possibilities are just around the corner. That's what makes this such an exciting time.
You're telling me. But I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about for now. So we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll explore how AI voices are specifically changing things for both podcasters and listeners. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. It's amazing to think about how AI voices are already changing things in podcasting. And it's not just about making things more accessible, it's also opening up all sorts of possibilities for being creative.
Totally. I bet there are podcasters listening right now thinking, okay, this is cool, but what's in it for me?
Right. Let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
One of the biggest benefits is consistency. I mean, even the best podcasters have days when their voice is tired or they're dealing with allergies.
Oh, tell me about it. Some days my voice just wants to take a vacation.
Exactly. But an AI voice, always ready to go, crystal clear every time.
It's like having the perfect take ready to go every time. And that must save so much time in editing.
Absolutely. And, it can be super helpful for people who are new to podcasting or maybe they're not experts in audio editing. AI voices can help everyone sound really professional.
That's fantastic. It's like having a built-in sound engineer in your podcasting software.
You got it. And then there's the whole thing about accents and dialects. For podcasters with strong accents, AI voices can help make sure everyone understands them.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about that, but that's such a good point. It's about making podcasting more accessible to people all over the world.
Exactly. It's not just about reaching more people. It's also about making sure podcasters can use their own voice, even if their accent might have held them back before.
It's about giving everyone a chance to be heard, no matter where they're from or how they speak. I love that.
And don't forget about multilingual podcasting. Imagine a podcast where the host seamlessly switches between languages, reaching listeners in their native tongue. That's a total game changer.
That's amazing. It's like we're tearing down language barriers and building a truly global podcasting community.
Exactly. AI voices are helping bridge those gaps and making podcasting more inclusive and diverse. And honestly, this is just the beginning. I think we're on the verge of a huge shift in podcasting, with AI voices leading the way.
Okay, you've got to tell me more. What other exciting changes are on the horizon? What does the future of podcasting look like?
Well, imagine podcasts that are personalized, tailored to each listener's interests. Maybe the AI voice adjusts its tone based on your feedback, or even creates content just for you.
That's wild. It's like having a podcast that knows exactly what you want to hear.
Exactly. And it gets even cooler when you think about interactive podcasts.
Hmm.
Imagine being able to talk to the AI voice, ask it questions, get real-time answers, even change the direction of the story.
Wow, that's like a choose your own adventure podcast.
You got it. AI voices are blurring the lines between just listening and actively participating, making the whole experience so much more immersive.
It sounds like the possibilities are truly endless. But I have to ask, with AI voices getting so advanced, is there a chance that human voices will become, obsolete in podcasting?
That's a big question a lot of people are asking, but I don't think it's about one replacing the other. I think human voices and AI voices can absolutely coexist and even work together in some really interesting ways.
So it's not about losing that human connection, but rather finding new ways to connect and share our stories.
Exactly. Human voices bring authenticity, vulnerability, you know, that special something that AI can't fully replicate, at least not yet. But AI voices offer consistency, accessibility, and a whole new set of creative tools.
So it's about finding the right balance, using the right tool for the job, and embracing the unique strengths of both human and AI voices.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that podcasting is constantly changing and growing, and there's room for everyone, no matter what kind of voice they use.
That's a great way to put it. And it brings us back to the idea of inclusivity, which is what we're really talking about here. AI voices are more than just a cool new technology. They're a force for positive change, breaking down barriers and helping people connect and share their voices in ways that weren't possible before.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, we have to be thoughtful, ethical, and committed to using this technology to make podcasting even more inclusive and accessible for everyone.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, so we've looked at the practical benefits of AI voices, the amazing things they could do in the future, and how important it is to use them responsibly. But I'm still curious about the emotional side of things. How do AI voices affect both podcasters and listeners on an emotional level?
That's a great question because ultimately, podcasting is about connecting with people on an emotional level, right? It's about sharing stories that resonate, ideas that inspire, and experiences that move us.
Exactly. It's about that feeling of connection you get when you hear a voice that speaks to you, even if it's not a human voice.
Yes. And that's where things get really interesting. Because even though AI voices don't have emotions themselves, they could definitely make listeners feel things.
So it's not about the AI feeling the emotion, it's about the listener feeling it through the AI's delivery.
Exactly. Think about it. We connect with characters in movies and TV shows all the time, even though we know they're not real, and their voices are often created using CGI or other technologies.
That's so true. We suspend our disbelief and get caught up in the story, the emotions, and the relationships between the characters.
Exactly. And it's the same with AI voices and podcasts. If the content is good, the storytelling is strong, and the AI voice fits the material, listeners can really connect with the podcast and the host, even if the host isn't a person.
That's fascinating. It's like we're expanding our understanding of what it means to connect with a voice, realizing that emotion and connection can go beyond human interaction.
You're absolutely right. And this has huge implications for how we think about accessibility and inclusion in podcasting. It means that people who might have felt excluded before because of communication challenges or other reasons can now connect with audiences in powerful and meaningful ways.
I love that. It's about recognizing that human empathy and connection can exist even with all these technological advancements.
Exactly. It's a reminder that podcasting, at its heart, is about human connection, no matter what kind of voice is delivering the message.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, so we've talked about all the technical stuff, the ethical considerations, the practical benefits, and the emotional impact of AI voices, but I'm curious about your personal experience. As someone who works with AI voice technology all the time, what are some of the things that have surprised you or inspired you?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the most amazing things I've seen is how AI voices have helped people with communication challenges find their own voice and share their stories. It's so inspiring to see people who might have felt silenced before finally having a platform to express themselves and connect with others.
I can only imagine how powerful that must feel. It's like giving someone a voice they never thought they had.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual empowerment, it's about making podcasting more diverse and interesting as a whole. AI voices are bringing new voices, new perspectives, and new stories to the table.
I love that. It's about broadening the conversation and welcoming more people into it.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning. As AI voice technology continues to evolve, I'm so excited to see how it will continue to break down barriers, inspire creativity, and create even more opportunities for connection and understanding.
Me too. It's an incredible time to be involved in podcasting, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
I agree. The possibilities are endless, and I believe AI voices will play a key role in making podcasting even more inclusive and engaging for everyone.
On that note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical side of things to the emotional impact and the exciting future of AI voices. But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Great idea. What's on your mind?
We've talked a lot about how AI voices are changing things for podcasters, but I'm really interested in the listener's perspective.
Yeah.
How do you think AI voices are changing the listening experience? And what are some things listeners should keep in mind as podcasting continues to evolve?
That's a fantastic question, and it deserves its own deep dive. Because at the end of the day, podcasting is a two-way street. It's about creators and listeners coming together to share stories, ideas, and experiences.
Exactly. As AI voices become more common in podcasts, we need to consider how listeners are experiencing them.
Absolutely. So listeners, we want to hear from you. How are AI voices changing how you listen to podcasts? Are you more open to podcasts with AI hosts? What are you hoping for or worried about when it comes to the future of AI voices in podcasting?
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments or connect with us on social media. Your feedback will help us shape the next part of our deep dive, where we'll focus on the listener's experience and explore the relationship between AI voices and podcast audiences.
I love it. This is an ongoing conversation, and we're excited to keep exploring it with our listeners.
Me too. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll tie everything together and leave you with some thought-provoking questions about AI voices and the future of podcasting. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into AI voices and podcasting. We've explored a ton, like how AI voices work, the ethics involved, and their impact on both podcasters and listeners. So now, let's tie it all together and give you some things to think about as you continue to explore this amazing topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. We've talked about all the tech stuff, the creative possibilities, and how AI voices can affect us emotionally. But I think it's time to zoom out and look at the bigger picture.
Okay, I like that. What do you mean by the bigger picture?
Well, AI voices in podcasting are just one piece of a much bigger trend, which is AI becoming a part of, like, everything we do. Self-driving cars, personalized medicine, AI is changing the world, and podcasting is right there in the mix.
It's true. Everywhere you look, there's some new AI thing. It's pretty exciting, but also a little overwhelming, to be honest.
I get that. It's a lot to take in, and it's totally normal to have mixed feelings about such a powerful technology. But I think the important thing is to remember that AI is just a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
So it's not about the tech itself, it's about how we use it.
Exactly. We need to approach AI with curiosity, but also be critical and make sure we're using it in ways that make the world better.
I like that. It's about using AI to make positive changes, not letting it control us or tell us who we are.
You got it. And that brings us back to podcasting. AI voices have this incredible potential to make podcasting more accessible to everyone, regardless of their background.
It's like breaking down those barriers and giving everyone a voice, a chance to share their stories and their perspectives with the world.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, it's super important that we keep having these conversations about AI and podcasting, the
That
ethical stuff, and how we can use this technology to create a fairer and more equal world.
I totally agree. It's an ongoing conversation, and we need to be aware of both the good and the bad as we figure out this new world.
For sure. But honestly, I'm optimistic about the future of AI and podcasting. When we use it thoughtfully and responsibly, I think it can help us build a more connected, more understanding, and more compassionate world.
That's a beautiful thought. It reminds us that podcasting is really all about human connection, no matter what kind of voice is sharing the message.
You said it. So, to all our listeners out there, as you keep listening to podcasts and come across AI voices, stay curious, ask questions, and be open to new possibilities.
And most importantly, be yourself. Share your voice, your stories, your passions with the world, and don't let anything stop you.
It's been amazing diving deep into this topic with you, and I hope everyone listening has enjoyed it as much as we have.
Me too. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring the incredible world of audio storytelling.